My name is Grace Adeyemi, and for 63 years, I have carried the weight of our family's secret like a precious calabash balanced on my head. In Lagos, where tongues wag faster than ceiling fans during power outages, our family has managed to keep our business clean and our name respected. My late husband, Chief Adeyemi, left behind something more valuable than money, documents that could change our family's entire future. When my son Tund announced he was bringing home his bride, Amara, my heart swelled with joy. Finally, someone to help me carry the burden of managing this large household. The introduction ceremony was beautiful. Amara wore cream lace that shimmered like moonlight, and her smile could melt even the hardest heart. I embraced her warmly, calling her my daughter, in front of everyone. But as I showed her around our ancestral home that evening, pointing out family portraits and heirlooms, I noticed something strange. Her eyes moved too quickly, scanning everything like a scanner at the airport. When we passed my late husband's study, I saw her pause and stare at the mahogany bookshelf. That night, as I prepared for bed, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that Amara had noticed the hidden door behind the bookshelf, the one even Tund had forgotten existed. The first week of Amara's stay passed smoothly, almost too smoothly. She woke early to greet me, helped in the kitchen without complaint, and spoke to everyone with honey-coated words. My friends at church praised me endlessly. "Grace, you have found a gem," Mom Ngozi said. I smiled and nodded, but something felt off, like pepper soup without enough spice. One afternoon, while arranging flowers in the sitting room, I overheard Amara talking to Tund. Her voice was casual, almost too casual. "Darling, your family business, how exactly did your father start it? Where did the initial capital come from?" Tund laughed and said something about hard work and prayers. But I saw the way Amara's eyes narrowed when he didn't give details. Later that evening, I noticed her standing near the study door, running her fingers along the frame as if searching for something. When I walked closer, she jumped and smiled brightly. "Mama, I was just admiring the woodwork. It's so beautiful." I nodded slowly, but my spirit was already unsettled. That night, during our family party to welcome her properly, I saw something that made my blood run cold. While everyone was dancing and eating, Amara stepped outside briefly. Through the window, I watched her slip a small folded note to a man I had never seen before. He nodded, pocketed it quickly, and disappeared into the night. When she returned, her smile was still perfect, her composure unshaken. Small things began to disappear around the house. Nothing major at first, just little items that made me question my memory. My late husband's favorite pen vanished. A set of old keys I had stored in my bedroom went missing. Even the visitor's book for my husband's funeral was suddenly nowhere to be found. Asked the housekeeper, Patience, if she had moved anything. She swore she hadn't touched a thing. "Mama, I only clean where you tell me to clean," she said. I didn't want to create problems so early in Amara's marriage, so I kept quiet and observed. Then one morning, I discovered something that made my hands tremble. I had written a private letter to my late husband years ago, a letter I kept locked in my drawer. It was torn into pieces and scattered inside, as if someone had read it hastily and tried to hide the evidence. My heart pounded. That letter mentioned the secret, not directly, but enough for someone clever to understand there was something hidden. I looked around my room carefully, checking if anything else had been disturbed. Everything appeared normal, but the air felt violated. Later that day, I watched Amara closely during lunch. She ate her jollof rice delicately, laughed at jokes, and asked Tund about his day at work. But twice, I caught her staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. It wasn't exactly hostile, but it wasn't warm either. It was calculated. I began to notice Amara spending time with Tund's cousin, Emeka, a man who had always been jealous of my son's success. Emeka had tried several times to get involved in our family business, but my late husband had refused, knowing his character was questionable. Now, suddenly, Amara and Emeka were having long conversations in the garden, their heads close together like conspirators. One Saturday afternoon, I pretended to be napping but watched from my bedroom window. Amara handed Emeka a brown envelope. He opened it, read whatever was inside, and smiled widely. They shook hands like people sealing a deal. My stomach twisted with anxiety. What could she possibly be giving him? That evening, I confronted Tun gently. My son, I have noticed Amara spending time with Emeka. Is everything all right? Tun laughed and waved his hand dismissively. Mama, don't worry. Amara is just being friendly. I wanted to scream that Emeka was not family to trust, but I held my tongue. Pushing too hard would only make Tun defensive. The next morning, while arranging the sitting room, I overheard Amara on the phone. Her voice was low but confident. Yes, I'm telling you, this family is hiding something big. Once I confirm the details, we'll move forward. My hands froze on the pillow I was holding. She paused, then laughed softly. Don't worry. I know the secret everyone is protecting. It's only a matter of time before it's mine. I could no longer stay silent. That evening, after dinner, I asked Amara to join me in the study for a private conversation. Tun had gone out, so it was just the two of us. The room felt heavy, with unspoken tension. I poured her a glass of Zobo and smiled gently. My daughter, I have noticed you are very curious about our family history. Is there something specific you want to know? Amara's face remained calm. She sipped her drink slowly before responding. Mama, I only want to understand the family I married into. Is that wrong? Her tone was respectful, but her eyes were sharp. I leaned forward slightly. Curiosity is natural, but some things are kept private for good reasons. Not everything needs to be uncovered. For a moment, something flickered in her expression, something cold and calculating. Then she smiled sweetly. Of course, Mama. I understand completely. Family secrets should remain family secrets. She stood up gracefully and thanked me for the drink. But as she reached the door, she paused and turned back. Her smile was still there, but her voice carried different weight. Although, Mama, secrets have a way of revealing themselves eventually. One day, everyone will know what I know. The words hung in the air like smoke from burning incense. I felt a chill run down my spine as she walked out, her footsteps light. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her words, the veiled threat hidden beneath her politeness. Amara was no longer just curious. She was dangerous. Tun started asking me strange questions. Mama, why are you always watching Amara? She feels uncomfortable. I was shocked. Had Amara already begun poisoning his mind against me? I chose my words carefully. My son, I am not watching her. I am simply observing. He sighed deeply. Mama, please give her a chance. She's trying her best. I nodded and let the matter drop, but inside, my worry grew like a tumor. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Our neighbor, Mama Chitty, fell seriously ill, and Amara organized everything. Hospital visits, meals, even a prayer group. Everyone praised her endlessly. Your daughter-in-law is a blessing, people said. Even I found myself softening slightly. Maybe I had been too harsh. That evening, Tund hugged me in the kitchen. You see, Mama? Amara has a good heart. I smiled and agreed, wanting desperately to believe him. But later that night, while cleaning my room, I found something that shattered my brief moment of peace. Hidden under my bed, wrapped in old newspaper, was a small locked envelope. I recognized Amara's handwriting immediately. My hands shook as I stared at it. I didn't have the key, and I couldn't open it without destroying the envelope. What was she hiding under my bed? Why my room specifically? I carefully placed it back exactly where I found it, my mind racing. Amara's act of kindness suddenly felt like a performance, a smokescreen to distract everyone while she continued her schemes. The annual family reunion arrived, and relatives traveled from all over Nigeria. The compound was filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of jollof rice. Amara moved through the crowd like a queen, greeting everyone with charm and grace. I watched her closely, still suspicious despite her recent good behavior. During the afternoon, A heated argument broke out between Tun's younger cousin, Ada, and her husband over money. We were all trying to calm them down quietly. Suddenly, Amara stepped forward with a smile and said loudly, "Ada, maybe if you managed money the way you manage gossip, your husband wouldn't complain." The entire gathering went silent. Then, slowly, people began to laugh. Even Ada's husband chuckled. Ada looked humiliated, but she forced a smile and walked away. Everyone praised Amara for her wit and boldness.
"She's so sharp," they said.
But I saw what others didn't. I saw the calculated cruelty in Amara's eyes, the deliberate choice to humiliate Ada publicly to gain favor. This wasn't wit. It was manipulation. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat in the sitting room, staring at family photos on the wall. My late husband's face looked back at me, steady and wise. I whispered to his picture, "She is dangerous, my husband. I feel it in my bones." Something dark was growing in Amara's heart, something fueled by envy and ambition, and I knew I had to act before it destroyed everything we had built. I made a decision that weighed heavily on my conscience. I hired a private investigator, a discreet man named Mr. Bello, who had helped our family before. I met him secretly at a small book cafe from our neighborhood. "Find out everything about Amara," I told him, sliding an envelope of money across the table. "Her past, her family, her motives." Mr. Bello nodded and assured me he would be thorough. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. Then one afternoon, he called and asked to meet urgently. My heart pounded as I sat across from him in his office. He placed a worn diary on the table between us. "I found this among her old belongings that a former roommate kept," he explained. I opened the diary with trembling hands. The handwriting was unmistakably Amara's, younger, but hers nonetheless. As I read, my blood turned cold. Entry after entry detailed her plans, her frustrations, her hunger for wealth and status. One entry, dated 2 years before she met Tund, read, "I will find a family with a hidden legacy and make it mine. I will do whatever it takes." Another entry mentioned, uncovering secrets that others are too blind to see. I looked up at Mr. Bello, my voice barely a whisper. She planned this. She targeted our family deliberately. He nodded grimly. "It appears so, madam." I closed the diary and held it tightly. This was the evidence I needed, but it was also terrifying. Amara wasn't just an opportunist. She was calculating, patient, and dangerous. Small disasters began happening around our household, things that seemed like accidents, but felt deliberate. Tund had been working on an important business deal with a foreign investor. The meeting was scheduled, documents were prepared, everything was ready. Then, the morning of the meeting, the investor called to cancel, claiming he had received disturbing information about our family's credibility. Tund was devastated. "I don't understand, Mama. Who would sabotage us?" I didn't answer, but I knew. Later that week, my younger daughter, Bisola, was supposed to receive a scholarship abroad. The approval letter had already arrived. But suddenly, the scholarship was revoked due to administrative errors that no one could explain. Bisola cried for days. The family grew tense and suspicious. "Something is wrong," my brother-in-law said. "These things don't just happen randomly." Everyone nodded in agreement, but no one had proof. I watched Amara during these conversations. She sat quietly, her face showing appropriate concern, but I noticed something else. Her eyes glittered with hidden satisfaction, like someone watching a plan unfold perfectly. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I knew Amara was behind these misfortunes, but I couldn't prove it. She was too careful, too clever. I prayed desperately for wisdom and strength, knowing that exposing her would require more than suspicion. I needed undeniable evidence. I finally decided to confide in Tund. One evening, I asked him to sit with me privately in the study. The room felt heavy with history and secrets. I poured my heart out carefully, explaining my observations, my concerns, and my suspicions about Amara. Tund listened, his face growing darker with each word. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. Mama, I love you, but I think you are being unfair to Amara. She has done nothing but try to fit in. My chest tightened with frustration. My son, I am not imagining things. He stood up, his voice firm but gentle. Mama, maybe you feel replaced, but Amara is my wife, and I trust her. His words cut deep, not because they were harsh, but because I realized Amara had already begun turning him against me. I wanted to show him the diary, the evidence Mr. Bello had found, but something stopped me. If I revealed everything now, Tund might think I was manufacturing evidence. I needed to be strategic. After Tund left the study, I sat alone in the darkness, feeling helpless. But then I heard something that made my blood freeze. Soft footsteps outside the study door, followed by a low, satisfied laugh. I rushed to the door and opened it quickly, but the corridor was empty. Yet I knew. Amara had been standing there, listening to everything. And she was pleased. Amara's next move came faster than I expected. One Saturday morning, I woke to find the house unusually quiet. Tund had traveled for work, and most of the staff had the day off. I went to the kitchen and noticed the study door slightly ajar. My heart began to race. I always locked that door. I rushed inside and immediately saw the disaster. The mahogany bookshelf had been moved, and the hidden door behind it was wide open. Papers were scattered everywhere, and my late husband's locked metal box was sitting open on the desk. Amara stood in the center of the room, holding a yellowed document, her eyes scanning it rapidly. When she heard me, she didn't flinch. She simply looked up and smiled, a smile that was no longer sweet but cold and victorious. Mama, she said calmly, folding the document. I finally understand everything now. My voice came out as a whisper. What have you done? She walked closer, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. I've discovered the truth about this family's wealth. The land documents, the original ownership papers, the unclaimed inheritance your husband hid. This secret could make me the most powerful person in this family. I felt dizzy, gripping the desk for support. That inheritance is not for personal gain. My husband kept it hidden to protect the family from greed. Amara laughed softly. And now it's my leverage. If I want something, this family will give it to me. Otherwise, the entire world will know what you've been hiding. Amara wasted no time weaponizing her discovery. Within days, I noticed subtle changes in how family members treated me. During our weekly dinner, my opinions were questioned. My decisions were second-guessed. Even small matters were suddenly up for debate. One evening, my niece Funmi pulled me aside and said quietly, Auntie Grace, some people are saying you've been making decisions without consulting everyone. I was stunned. Who is saying this? Funmi looked uncomfortable. Amara mentioned it to a few of us. She said she's worried about you. My hands clenched into fists. Amara was systematically destroying my credibility, painting me as a dictator, while positioning herself as the reasonable voice. The poison was spreading slowly, but surely. During a family meeting about finances, Amara spoke up sweetly. Mama Grace has done so much, but perhaps it's time we share responsibilities. She's not getting younger. Several family members nodded in agreement. I felt betrayed and cornered, but I kept my composure. That night, I discovered something even more alarming. My cousin's son, Junior, came to my room looking guilty. Auntie, I need to confess something. Amara asked me to keep an eye on you and report anything unusual. My heart sank. And, did you agree? He nodded shamefully. She promised to help me get a job. I'm sorry. I patted his shoulder gently. At least one person had the conscience to tell the truth. My world began to crumble in ways I never imagined. I had always been a respected elder in our community. But slowly, that respect was being eroded. I lost an important position at our church's women's fellowship, a role I had held for 15 years. The pastor explained that new leadership was needed, but I heard whispers that Amara had suggested I was too busy. Then a business partnership I had maintained for years suddenly collapsed. My partner called apologetically, saying he had received concerning information about my reliability. When I pressed for details, he became evasive. I knew Amara's fingerprints were all over these disasters, but I still had no concrete proof. One evening, I broke down in my room, crying silently into my pillow. I felt trapped, watching my life's work being systematically destroyed. The next morning, Tund confronted me, his face troubled. "Mama, what is happening? Why are people saying these things?" I wanted to tell him everything, but before I could speak, Amara appeared in the doorway, her face concerned and innocent. "Darling, maybe it was just an unfortunate misunderstanding," she said softly. "You know how rumors spread. Perhaps someone misinterpreted Mama's actions." Tun nodded, accepting her explanation immediately. I watched helplessly as she twisted the situation again, making herself look supportive while subtly suggesting I was somehow at fault. That night, she had won another round. Mr. Bello called me urgently one morning. "Madam, I've discovered something crucial." I met him at his office, my hands trembling with anticipation. He played an audio recording, something his contact had obtained from Amara's close friend. Amara's voice came through clearly. "The old woman thinks she can control everything, but I'm smarter. Once I have full control of those documents, I'll reposition everything under my name. Tund is easy to manipulate. He loves me blindly. Within 6 months, I'll be making all major decisions, and that hidden inheritance will secure my future forever." My hands shook violently. "I'll leverage those land documents to make deals they can't refuse. Grace can keep her pride, but I'll have the power." Mr. Bello stopped the recording. "This is strong evidence, madam, but you must be careful how you use it. If you reveal it too early, she might destroy the documents or turn the family completely against you." I nodded slowly, my mind racing. I finally had proof of Amara's betrayal, her manipulation, her ultimate goal. But timing would be everything. If I moved too quickly, she could escape consequences. If I waited too long, she might succeed. I thanked Mr. Bello and left his office, clutching a copy of the recording like a precious weapon. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Amara thought she had won, but she had underestimated a mother protecting her family. Tun began behaving strangely. He would come home late, his face troubled and distant. During dinners, he barely spoke, his eyes constantly watching Amara. One night, I heard him leaving well past midnight. Curiosity and concern made me follow him quietly. He drove through nearly empty streets until he reached a small cafe on the outskirts of town. I parked far away and watched. Through the window, I saw Amara sitting at a corner table with a man I didn't recognize. They were deep in conversation, papers spread between them. Then Tun walked in. Amara looked up, startled, her face going pale. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but the body language told me everything. Tund was angry, his gestures sharp and demanding. Amara was defensive, trying to explain. The strange man quickly gathered his papers and left. After several tense minutes, Tund stormed out, and Amara followed, calling after him. I drove home quickly, arriving before them. My heart was pounding. Had Tund finally discovered something? Was he beginning to see the truth? The next morning, he came to my room, his eyes red from lack of sleep. "Mama, I saw something last night that confused me." Amara was meeting someone secretly. When I asked her, she said it was about a surprise gift, but something felt wrong. I held his hand gently. "My son, sometimes we must trust our instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate further." The family accountant, Mr. Okonkwo, requested an urgent meeting. His face was grim as he spread financial documents across my table. "Madam, someone has been making unauthorized changes to the family accounts." My stomach dropped. "What kind of changes?" He pointed to several transactions. "Money has been moved to a separate account. The signatures appear to be yours, but I know your signature well, and these look slightly different." I examined the documents closely. The signatures were indeed forgeries, but skillfully done. "When did this start?" Mr. Okonkwo checked his records. "About 3 weeks ago. Small amounts at first, but the recent transfer was substantial." I knew immediately who was responsible. Amara had somehow gained partial access and was slowly draining resources. Mr. Okonkwo explained, I believe someone with access to your documents created these forged signatures. I've frozen the suspicious account and alerted the bank. That evening, I received an anonymous note slipped under my door. The message was clear. I know where the complete secret is hidden. Soon, everything will be mine. You cannot stop what's already in motion. My blood ran cold. Amara wasn't just stealing money. She was positioning herself to claim the entire hidden inheritance, the land documents that could reshape our family's wealth for generations. I realized with growing horror that she had been playing a long game, and I was running out of time. I could no longer afford to be subtle. I confronted Amara directly in the study, closing the door firmly. I placed the forged financial documents on the desk. Explain this, I demanded. Amara looked at the papers, then at me, her face a perfect mask of confusion. Mama, I don't understand. What are these? Forged signatures. Unauthorized transactions. Theft. Her eyes widened dramatically. And you think I did this? Mama, how could you accuse me? I would never betray this family. Her performance was flawless, her hurt expression almost convincing. Before I could respond, Tund walked in. What's happening here? Amara's eyes immediately filled with tears. Your mother is accusing me of stealing. I've done nothing but love this family, and this is how she treats me? Tund looked between us. I tried to explain. My son, these documents show, but Amara interrupted, her voice breaking. She has never accepted me. From the beginning, she's been looking for ways to turn you against me. Tund's face hardened slightly. Mama, these are serious accusations. Do you have actual proof that Amara did this? Because anyone could have forged those signatures. I opened my mouth to speak, but I realized the trap I was in. Without presenting all my evidence at once, I looked like a jealous mother-in-law. Amara watched me with barely concealed satisfaction. My credibility was damaged further. Everything fell apart on a Tuesday morning. I woke to find police officers at our gate and journalists gathering outside. My heart pounded as I rushed downstairs. Tund stood in the sitting room, his face ashen, holding a newspaper. The headline made my knees weak. Prominent family accused of document fraud and hidden inheritance scandal. Someone had leaked our family's secret to the media, twisting it to make us look like criminals. The article contained inside details. Quotes were attributed to a concerned family member. Our phone rang constantly. Business partners called to distance themselves. Friends stopped answering. Our reputation was crumbling in hours. Tund turned to me, his eyes filled with pain. Mama, is this true? Have we been hiding something illegal? Before I could answer, Amara appeared, her face arranged in shock. But I saw it, just for a second, the flash of triumph in her eyes. She had done this. She had weaponized our family's secret publicly, not caring about the destruction. The police wanted to question me. Lawyers were called. Family members arrived in panic. In the chaos, I caught Amara's eye. She smiled at me, a small, victorious smile that said clearly, I warned you. Now everyone knows. Everything I had fought to protect was exposed, twisted, and turned against us. And I still had no way to prove her betrayal. That night, after the police left and the family dispersed in anger, I made my decision. I could no longer play defense. It was time to strike back strategically. I called Mr. Bello and my most trusted family members, those who had known my late husband well. We met secretly at my brother-in-law's house. I laid out everything. The diary, the recordings, the forged documents, and most importantly, the truth about our family secret. My husband didn't hide stolen wealth, I explained firmly. He held documents for orphaned relatives, protecting inheritance that greedy extended family would have seized. He planned to distribute everything when the children came of age. That time is now, but Amara wants to claim it. I played the recordings of Amara's conversations. I showed them evidence of her schemes, her alliance with Emeka, her systematic destruction of my reputation. My brother-in-law's face hardened. This woman has played us all. We developed a counter-strategy carefully. We would expose Amara, but not impulsively. We needed to do it in a way that was undeniable, public, and complete. We would gather all rightful heirs, present the true documents, and reveal Amara's manipulation in front of everyone simultaneously. Over the next few days, I pretended to be defeated and broken, exactly what Amara expected. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, we were preparing the trap. Amara grew bold with her perceived victory. She began making decisions about family matters without consulting anyone, speaking as if she were already the matriarch. She held meetings with business associates, using our family name, and carried herself with arrogant confidence. One afternoon, she announced plans for a large family gathering, supposedly to heal divisions and move forward together. Everyone agreed, thinking it was reconciliation. What Amara didn't know was that we had already planned to use this gathering for our revelation. As the date approached, I watched her preparations with secret satisfaction. She ordered expensive decorations, invited influential guests, and clearly planned to cement her position as the new leader. She even suggested I should rest in my room during parts of the event, essentially sidelining me. I agreed meekly, playing my role perfectly. Tun noticed my changed behavior. "Mama, are you okay? You seem defeated." I smiled gently. "My son, sometimes we must accept when things change. Perhaps Amara is right." He looked relieved. But I saw Amara watching me from across the room, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. She sensed something was different but couldn't pinpoint what. The gathering was set for Saturday evening. Everything was in place. All rightful heirs had been contacted. Our lawyers were prepared. Mr. Bello had compiled all evidence. Justice was finally coming. Saturday arrived with clear skies. Guests began arriving early, filling our compound with chatter. Amara moved among them like a queen, accepting compliments and orchestrating everything with precision. She had no idea that every smile directed at her was about to turn to shock and disgust. As planned, I appeared briefly, greeted people politely, and then retired to my room, supposedly to rest. Amara looked triumphant, believing I had finally been pushed aside. But in my room, I was meeting with my core team, doing final preparations. At exactly 7 p.m., the formal program began. Amara took center stage, giving a speech about family unity. She spoke eloquently about healing old wounds and embracing new leadership. The audience applauded politely. Then, just as Amara was preparing to make her announcement about restructuring family responsibilities, my brother-in-law stood up and interrupted respectfully. "Excuse me, but before we continue, there is something the entire family needs to see." Amara's smile faltered. "Uncle, perhaps we can discuss that later in private?" "No," he said firmly. "This concerns everyone, and it must be addressed now." I emerged from my room at that moment, walking deliberately to the front. Amara's face went pale. "What is the meaning of this?" she asked. I signaled to Mr. Bello, who stepped forward with a projector. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "you have all been deceived. Tonight, you will see the truth." The lights dimmed, and the first recording began to play. Amara's voice filled the room, her cold admission of manipulation echoing from the speakers. People gasped. Tun stood frozen, his face draining of color as he listened to his wife's true thoughts. The evidence continued. The diary entries, the forged signatures, the secret meetings with Emeka, proof that she had leaked our family matters to the press. With each revelation, Amara's mask crumbled. But the final revelation was the most devastating. I stood before the gathering and explained the truth about our family secret. My late husband was appointed guardian of inheritance documents for 3 orphaned relatives. Their greedy extended family tried to seize everything, so my husband hid the documents until the children reached adulthood. That time is now. I gestured to 3 young adults at the back of the room, the rightful heirs, now grown. The audience murmured in surprise. Amara discovered these documents and planned to claim everything. She destroyed my reputation, manipulated my son, and betrayed this family for personal gain. But these documents were held in trust, and now they will be returned to their rightful owners. Our family lawyer presented the official documents. Everything was legal, transparent. The scandal Amara created was based on lies. Then came the twist that shocked everyone. One of the heirs, Folktales, stepped forward. Amara approached me 2 months ago. She claimed she could help me get my inheritance faster if I gave her a percentage. When I refused, she threatened me. The room erupted in angry voices. Amara stood in the center, surrounded by accusing eyes and angry voices. For the first time since I had met her, she had no clever response. Her carefully constructed facade had shattered completely. Tund approached her slowly, his face a mixture of betrayal and pain. "How could you?" he whispered. "I loved you. I trusted you." Amara's eyes filled with tears of desperation, not remorse. "Tund, I can explain. They're twisting everything." "Help," he interrupted, his voice rising. "You manipulated me, turned me against my mother, stole from us, and destroyed our reputation. That's not help. That's evil." Family members demanded she leave immediately. Someone called her parents. Others discussed legal action. Amara tried several times to speak, but no one would listen anymore. The woman who had wanted power now stood completely isolated. As security escorted her out, she locked eyes with me one final time. There was no more pretense. Only raw hatred and bitter realization that she had lost everything. Emeka had already fled when the revelations began, abandoning her. In the days that followed, the full consequences unfolded. Amara's parents came to apologize, ashamed of their daughter. Tund filed for divorce, his heart broken but his eyes opened. The media now scrambled to print retractions. Our family's reputation began to slowly heal. 3 months later, I stood in the same study where this nightmare had begun, but everything felt different. The rightful heirs had received their inheritance with proper ceremony. They blessed our family for protecting what was theirs. Tund sat beside me, older and wiser. "Mama, I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner." I patted his hand gently. "Love makes us blind sometimes, my son, but wisdom comes from learning." The family had reunited, stronger and more careful. The hidden door was no longer hidden. We had nothing left to conceal. Our secret was revealed, but in its revelation, truth and justice had prevailed. As for Amara, I heard she had left Lagos entirely, her reputation destroyed, and her ambitions turned to ash. Her own family had distanced themselves, ashamed of the disgrace she brought. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about her and felt a strange mixture of pity and relief. She had been so consumed by envy that she destroyed herself. That evening, as I sat on my veranda watching the sunset paint the Lagos sky orange and purple, I reflected on everything. My late husband used to say, "Grace, protect what matters, but never let secrets poison your soul." I had protected our family's trust, and when the time came, I had let the truth set us free. The younger generation now understood the weight of integrity and the danger of unchecked ambition. They had seen how envy corrupts and how manipulation eventually collapses under its own lies. As I sipped my tea, Tund brought his young nephew to sit with me. "Mama, tell us a story," the child requested. I smiled, pulling him close. "Let me tell you about the importance of truth and why we must always choose integrity over ambition." And as the sun set on that peaceful evening, I began teaching the next generation the lessons bought through fire, lessons that would protect them long after I was gone. Some secrets are meant to be revealed, but character, once destroyed by greed, can never be fully restored. That was Amara's true legacy, a cautionary tale our family would remember forever.